and the game is tied. Rockies are champions of baseball.
Oh, was that fun? Was that fun? Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Yes, this is an audio-only episode. I am actually going on vacation early tomorrow morning, so I don't have the time to set up the video and get the notes all gathered and really do a full, complete episode. I wanted to get into some film, but it always seems like every time I want to do another film session, it's either like a back-to-back or I got something going on the next morning. So this will be a shorter episode. It will be audio only for those who usually like to watch on YouTube or Spotify. It will obviously still be on all platforms, but just in the format of audio. But wow, what a win! It was a nice bounce back after a tough night at the Garden against Philly. I did miss that game. I wasn't able to record. It's the second game we've missed this year. So, and a heads up, I will probably miss at least one, maybe the next two games because I will be going away again on Christmas vacation. So just a little heads up there. But, you know, as we do hand out game balls, win or lose, I thought Mikhail and Mitch deserved it from the Philly game. But this is what we're talking about tonight. We're talking about the Knicks beating the Heat. They beat the dirty, scummy Miami Heat, who, you know, I've got teams that I hate, and I've got teams that just repulse me. And the Miami Heat are one of those teams. So screw them forever. Try not to get buried in the algorithm, or else I would use a different choice of words. And it was a tough game, man. You know, that even when the Knicks at the very end, you thought they were going to pull away a little bit. Miami pulls, you know, within a couple of points, and the Knicks have to go on a 7-0 run to just get some breathing room. But so there were a lot of tough parts of this game, especially early on. You know, I thought the Knicks defense at the point of attack was pretty tough to watch, as a lot of their guards were getting into the paint with ease, especially Jaime Jaquez. I thought in the first half it was a lot of Brunson, Mikhail, and Hart, the Nova kids, just bailing the Knicks out, and, you know, other guys, other starters, OG and Cat, were really tough watches. You know, OG in that first half was still not scoring after, 2-point performance against the Sixers. And then Cat, 2 points tonight, completely letting the officiating affect him on both sides of the ball, really showed in the first half. But I did think the Knicks did well the entire time, even during their adversity. They stayed either in the lead or stayed slightly behind. But they were in the lead for most of this. And, you know, Brunson had a dominant first half. Mikal Bridges didn't miss a shot in the first half, and I think he had maybe one miss at the very end there. OG Anunoby wakes up in that second half. The shot making made a big turnaround. The defense remained great. He won the defensive player of the game in that Knick locker room. But yeah, he had a couple, I think, back-to-back possessions with a block. One of them was, again, another block as low man helper. He loves that role. He's so great in that role, where he's able to kind of just rotate over to the paint off his corner man and get that block. So I thought the Knicks defense was better in the second half. I thought they made adjustments on Jaime Jaquez, kind of forced him to go left into tough pull-ups and didn't let him go all the way to the basket later on. So I thought, I thought OG, Mikhail, Kolek, Hart, all great games. Mitch had a fine game. You know, he had a tough time on Ware, who, let me tell you something about Khalil Ware. I had no idea Khalil Ware could shoot. I thought he was just a paint big, at least from what I remember from last year. I was like, all right, he's a guy who plays drop, and he's a guy who scores in the paint. He was 5 out of 7 from 3, 11 to 15 overall, 28 and 19 on the night for Khalil Ware. So he turned into Wemby. So Mitch did struggle against him. But I did think Mitch did a nice job offensively. I thought he made his free throws again. That's now 10 in a row. 10 of 11 in his last 2 games. Tonight he was 3 for 3. Something nice going on there. He doubled his percentage from 22 to 42%. You know, and there were some nice offensive possessions with him. You know, off of some Brunson passes, and picked up a couple of assists himself. But Jalen Brunson, I mean, obviously was the story in this damn thing. Continues to be everything to this franchise. Gets his 14th game ball in this one because why would you start anywhere else? Jalen Brunson is king. Jalen Brunson is everything. 47 points. Yes, 47 points. 8 assists. No turnovers. Shoots 15 out of 26. 6 for 13 on his threes. 9 for 13 on his twos. 11 of 11 at the foul line. Was a plus 10 plus minus. 38 minutes played. Outstanding performance from Brunson. Again, he could not miss a shot in that first half. You knew he was going for at least 45 after the first half he had. Wanted him to get that 50 ball so bad. I was hoping Miami fouling at the end would help him get to the line a little more, but the Knicks pulled away a little too much, so they didn't even bother fouling him in extra time. But 47 points was enough for him to now have a career high of points in a game at Madison Square Garden. So obviously he had, he scored over 50 a couple times. He's got a 61-point performance, but this was his first game, regular or postseason, scoring 47 points at MSG. So awesome to see. It's so fun watching him. You know, I was on Twitter during this game, and I thought, you know, somebody put up a tweet saying, like, this is one of those performances you randomly watch at 2 a.m. on YouTube. You know, you just watch the full highlights. And yeah, this is like, I have certain videos that I go to. I have Carmelo Anthony's 62-point game against the Hornets. Like, I have the 50-point game against the Heat, and I remember the specific highlights. I remember the stats of the individual stat line specifically. Like, he was 18 for 26 against the Heat. All 18 of those shots were jumpers. He went 10 out of 10 at the foul line, 7 out of 10 from 3. Against the Hornets for 62, he was 23 for 35. He was 6 for 11 on his threes. He didn't turn it over once. Like, I remember so many specific things about those performances because they stand out to you that much. And this was one of those, man. He just scores the ball in such fascinating ways. I mean, for a guy of his stature, you know, I hate to joke on this because, you know, it's kind of a joke between him and Hart lately in the media, but, you know, for a guy who's not super athletic and for a guy who doesn't have this freak physique, you know, like maybe an Anthony Edwards, he's got to get buckets in any way he can. And a lot of people, you know, if you're not a Knicks fan, you might criticize him for getting buckets in certain ways. And, you know, if you're somebody who plays for the Spurs and you say it's unethical, maybe, you know what I'm hinting at there. So he's got to do it in different ways. And the game's about buckets. Get it any way you can. And he plays that game so well. And he's so, I hate to use the word crafty because I feel like people overuse that, but he's creative with it. I mean, you're talking about rejecting a screen and now you're getting a big and drop and he's got all the space in the world. Getting into the paint and using that footwork, just attacking switches on pick and rolls, which he was doing the entire fourth quarter, finding Norman Powell, and then they decided to help on him. They doubled. When they doubled him, he'd hit the pocket, hit the short roll. Just really smart basketball. And again, you know what I liked about this performance is the fact that he took 13 threes. And even though the three-point shot was not dropping in that second half, he continued to take them. You know, and I think that's my favorite part about Brunson's growth from year one Brunson to where we are right now with him, year 4 with the Knicks. He is becoming more of a three-point shooter. And if you're just looking at it on the surface level, you're like, well, his first season with the Knicks, he shot 42%. This season, he's shooting 37%. His first season with the Knicks, though, he was shooting 42% on 4.7 attempts per game. This season, he's shooting 37%, and it's on very close to 8 attempts per game. And I am choosing the second case as the more, as that's better for the team. That second number is better for the team because of the spacing and how it forces the defense to respect him on more possessions overall. Jalen Brunson's taken 8 threes. The defense has to come out to him 8 times. Jalen Brunson's taken 3 or 4 threes. The defense doesn't come out to you as much. It's about the total possessions and the direct points that's going to lead to. So I love the fact that he's up the volume, even with a slight dip in efficiency since he's first come here. So the 3-point shooting from him, you wish that someone like Karl Anthony Towns would take notes, and start taking more. But I'm not even going to talk about Towns' performance today. We're going to look right past it. I did think the defense picked up a little bit in the second half. I thought it was good in the fourth quarter. But Jalen Brunson, my king, my hero, my Lord and Savior, with another gem tonight. Just a phenomenal player, man. I love him. I love him so much. I got to get his jersey. Maybe Santa Claus will bring me it, but quickly becoming everybody's favorite Knick ever. I mean, you hear the noise more and more each day. And listen, it's tough for me to say he's my favorite Knick ever because I'm going to take you on a bit of a ride here for a sec. I think I've said this story a couple of times here on the show. When I became a Knicks fan was February of 2012. And obviously that is a familiar time for a lot of Knicks fans, as that was during Linsanity. My family and I went on vacation February 2012 to upstate New York. We went not skiing, to some ski resort, but we were like snow tubing. And we stayed at some place, nice bed and breakfast. And I think the night we got there, maybe we go to this bar, this restaurant. It's got a pool table and the TV's on. And Jeremy Lin is doing his thing against, maybe it was the Lakers or something. And I'm tuning in. And ever since that day, guys, I fell in love with the Knicks. But Linsanity, watching that, I was like, all right, let me watch the next game. And I do, and I keep watching, and And Linsanity drew me to the Knicks. And then once that phase kind of fizzled out, Carmelo Anthony has his career season the next year where he wins the scoring title and leads the Knicks to 50-something wins, and they get to the conference finals. And then that is why I'm a Knicks fan. That's why I've stayed a Knicks fan throughout all those years, because Carmelo, even despite all the garbage, gave me a reason to watch. So it's hard to say he's going to be knocked down to 2. But I'm telling you, man, if the Knicks go out there and they have another postseason run, and if they can find a way to get into the finals, obviously they need to win. But Jalen Brunson, I think it's going to be solidified that he's my favorite Knick of all time. And he's getting so much closer to being the 1A as opposed to the 1B that he might be right now. But he's definitely had the better Knick career than Carmelo Anthony. I'm not denying that. I'm just talking about my personal favorite. There's always going to be a soft spot for Melo, but Jalen Brunson, he's getting a percentage closer every day. And this was just a special performance to watch. I love him, and I hope people don't take it for granted. So, yeah, he's been great. Again, I'm completely sorry. I just took us on a wild ride there. Completely got off track and irrelevant. But point being, I love Jalen Brunson. What else from this game? I like the rotation right now, with all the injuries the Knicks are dealing with in the backcourt. I liked that I saw Muhammad Diawara get some more run. Mike Brown continues to go to him. I think he's been playing some good basketball. Again, he's an intriguing prospect to me. He's long, he's switchy, he could shoot the ball a little bit. He's showing that more and more. Had some good first half minutes. Only played less than 4 minutes. He knocked down a three. But it's because he took that first three that the next time he took a three, it drew the low man tagger to the perimeter, which opened up a pick and roll up the middle. So I don't think he ended up taking that three, but it was because he took a couple before that, which opened up a pick and roll for the Knicks to get a basket in the middle of the lane. So it's stuff like that, the spacing, the gravity that we always talk about when it comes to guys like OG and Mikhail, who are great cornermen. It's nice to see Diawara have that gravity, because if he's a guy who could start knocking down a shot, the other end's going to just look what he does on that end, or what he's got the capability and the physicality or the physical makeup to be on that end. He could be a good rotational player. You know, I liked seeing the look with Diawara and OG together in that first half. If you're talking about defense and switching, that's a great duo to put out there. I like that look. I would like to see that look more. And then he went to Tyler Kolek some more. Listen, Tyler Kolek had a bad game against Philly. Bounced back in this one. You know, we'll talk more about that in a minute, but he went to Kolek for some long shifts. You know, the entire second quarter, Kolek was on the floor. And then the second half, there was a stint for 10 straight minutes he was out there. You know, so I do wonder, as Kolek continues to play better, what the rotation is going to look like if there is ever a day when the Knicks are fully healthy and Deuce and Shamet are both back. I have a feeling that Landry Shamet might be the odd man out, as good as he was playing before, because Deuce is obviously staying in. Clarkson's a veteran of the game. Let's say Tyler Kolek continues to play this really good level of basketball. You can't assume that Mike Brown's going to go to 10, because someone's going to lose minutes, and it's just hard to fit everybody in, especially all these guards. There's going to be a guard logjam. You can only play so many guards. The Knicks need a wing as it is. But, yeah, I like the rotation that Mike Brown went with. And speaking of Mike Brown, man, again, I mentioned at the top, I really wish we had time to dive into some film, because it was really just a specific possession. But listen, we have been emphasizing the value of not just pace, as in transition and full court opportunities, defense turning into offense, but we've been emphasizing half court pace and getting into early offense. Right? It's been something we've talked about since the hiring of Mike Brown. And there was a possession there was a possession in this game. It's a sequence that is a textbook example of what Mike Brown's vision is for this Knick offense in one. And that play came in the fourth quarter. There were about 3 minutes left in the game. The Knicks get into their offense with 19 seconds on the shot clock. They were targeting, as I said, Norm Powell. They were targeting that switch often, especially in the fourth quarter, getting his man into the action to screen. And they did it here with Bridges. Bridges comes in to screen the switch. Miami knows Powell is prey for Brunson. So what they do this time is they rotate late help off of OG, who's on the strong corner, and they send help with Jaquez. OG reacts to that rotation by instantly flashing middle. Brunson sees that. He hits OG middle, who hits Josh Hart on the left wing, who hits the entry to Cat on the post, who's on the left baseline. Cat immediately gives it right back to Hart. Hart makes a back cut. Cat goes to Hart for a finish, and by the time that ball's in the basket, there's 4 point something seconds left. And I mentioned this specific play because if you compare something like this to last season's Knicks, where the Knicks so much of last year and so much under Tom Thibodeau were getting into the half court with 15 seconds or less on clock, they would have never had the time to find the switch, manipulate the help, and beat the rotation. They didn't have all that time last year to do that. But because they're pushing it and getting into their half-court offense a few seconds earlier this year, they're able to do all those types of things in one possession. They're getting multiple bites at the apple, right? This is the impact of pushing early offense, and it's why the Knicks must keep practicing and working at it because they're still not there yet. They still need to work on that. They still have moments where they kind of revert back to what they were last year, and they're still trying to figure that part of their identity out. But it's been better, and I wish I knew where to go to find how much quicker they're getting into the half court this year. If there is a website out there, I mean, I'm looking on Cleaning the Glass. I know that's a popular one. I have a subscription to them, but I can't find it on there. I would like to know because it feels like it's been slightly better. And at the same on the same play, I think it's also worth highlighting the importance of Josh Hart's role here. Because again, once the ball gets to Josh Hart, it's entry and cut immediately, quickly. Right? By letting Hart handle the entry pass, now Towns can see any potential help rotation coming because it's coming from the top, as opposed to making a backside rotation on him. So if Hart's going to throw the entry, he could see that helper. But also, by Hart making that back cut off the entry, that's now going to put his defender, who is Khalil Ware, in a tough position because now he has to commit to one of two things. He has to either, all right, let me double the post on Cat and leave Hart to make that back cut, or let me stay with Hart on the back cut and now I have to rely on Bam Adebayo in face up against Cat. What happens here is Ware decides to turn his back to Josh Hart, and he's going to shadow help to Cat. Cat hits Hart on a free back cut. Backdoor play complete. Hart finishes at the basket. So I thought that was just a perfect example of pace and how to beat help like that. But I want to go back to Tyler Kolek because if you go to the bench unit, there are a couple of guys who played well. I think the second unit played well. Clarkson was fine until he wasn't, but he got some big buckets. We talked about Mitch. I think Tyler Kolek, though, deserves to get the game ball from the second unit. And that's now going to be 6 game balls on his season. He had 6 points in this game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 3 for 6 from the field. He was a plus 16 plus minus, played 22 minutes. Really liked it. The 3-point shot wasn't there, but he was playing off 2 feet in the paint. Displayed some excellent footwork, and that's something he's learned from Brunson. Obviously, it's how Brunson gets his buckets. He was 3 for 4 from 2. All 3 of his 2s were pretty cool makes, but that one where he came off of a Cat pick and roll, he comes off it, stops at the basket, picks up his dribble, and maneuvers through 2 defenders to get the ball in the bucket. Kind of like an up and under move. There was another possession. He comes off a double drag, flows DHO into a pick and roll, gets past Jaime Jaquez, gets the goaltend call. And his last one, he comes off another double drag. Powell switches on off the first screen, gets caught behind fighting over the top of the second screen, so he gets a clear lane finger roll finish. So some really nice finishing. I thought the passing remained good. And the defense, I thought he did a nice job on Norman Powell when he was on him. And that's been the surprise from Kolek this year, is that the defense has been better than expected. For a guy who's small and unathletic, never going to be switching a ton, and he'll have moments where he is bad. but I think he's been overall, a positive because he fights out there. So overall, I think that's it. I think we'll wrap it up in just a sec. We're going to head to a quick break, talk about what's coming up next for the Knicks, and here on the podcast again as I go away. We'll talk a little bit more about our schedule in a sec. Be back from break in about 1 minute. Stay with us.
Quick break here, guys. Stay connected with BD4 on social media. Follow us on Instagram and X at BD4Pod, and find us on Facebook by searching BD4. Don't miss out. Join the conversation. Want more BD4? Subscribe to our YouTube channel and never miss an episode. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and share with your fellow fans. Don't forget to ring that bell so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Love BD4 but don't have the time to sit down and watch? Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify so you never miss an episode. And if you're enjoying the show, leave us a 5-star rating and a quick review. It helps us grow and keeps the conversation going.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to episode 950. Episode 950 of the podcast. Didn't even realize we were on episode 950. So, coming up on the 1K. We'll have it hopefully by the end of the year, end of the season. It'll be a fun episode. So, with that said, let's take a look at the Knicks' schedule coming up in the next few days here on Tuesday. So by the time this episode is out tomorrow, the Knicks will be facing the Minnesota Timberwolves on the road. So they go back out to play the Wolves in Minnesota. That is a tough team, but you have beaten them. So I am not going to be able to recap that game. Again, I will be in a log cabin in upstate New York. Actually, that Jalen Brunson story that we told about Carmelo and when I fell for the Knicks and insanity and all that, I'm going to be staying pretty close to where I was back then. But I won't be covering next game, and I might not be able to get to the game after that, which is the Christmas Day game against Cleveland at MSG. I might be able to. If I do, I'll get to it late. You know, it's a Friday game, right? No, Christmas Day's on a Thursday. So, the next game after that is Saturday. So I probably can get to it. We'll see how tired I am. But don't expect me to be here for the next two. But I will be back very soon. And the Knicks, I will be watching them regardless. So with that said, let's wrap this one up with our trivia question and then get out of here. And our trivia question for this episode here. After Jalen Brunson's 47 points tonight, which Knicks legend did he tie for the most regular season games with 45-plus points in franchise history? All right. So which Knicks legend did Jalen Brunson just tie for the most regular season games with 45-plus points in franchise history? Let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. If you get the answer correct, I will give you a shout out in the next episode in front of all two of our listeners. And I think that is all we have, folks. So I appreciate it. Go Knicks. Screw the Heat. Let's keep winning. They are now 20-8 on the year. I guess technically they're 21-8, but you know, Adam Silver doesn't think a championship cup game is important. He apparently, statistically, it's just as important as a preseason game is in the standings. So the Knicks are 20-8, but they keep pushing and knocking on the door of those Pistons. But we'll see. I appreciate it. I'll see you all very soon. Merry Christmas. Have a really merry, very Merry Christmas. Enjoy it with your families. Watch Elf. Watch Home Alone. I recently watched Die Hard. Loved it. Not a Christmas movie. I'll see you later. Hey guys, thank you for listening to BD4. Be sure to follow us on social media, subscribe to us on YouTube, and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.